invite. So we're definitely stoked and excited here about what's going on. So, and Ashley, if you would like, I don't know if you would like to share it on your page. If you have your phone near you, should be able to see it live. Only if you would like to.
Okay.
That way your audience can see it as well.
Okay.
So some people are saying they can't hear me. Can you all hear me now? Let me know in the comments. Can you all hear me? All right, so we got a couple more minutes left here. Share and invite, share and invite, share and invite.
Mhm.
This is a true honor for us. Um, and we will get to the opening here. Give you just a couple more seconds to share and invite. This will be up on YouTube as well with Ashley's permission if she wants us to do that.
Sure.
We will leave it here on Facebook Live as well. Um, so, nevertheless, more people is joining in. So, hello, everybody, once again. We're going to reset the room. Hello, everyone. We are here. My name is Charles Shelton Jr. We have Ashley Oliphant here, and we want to welcome you all, everybody. So, prayerfully, everyone can hear myself and Ashley. So, we have here an astonished guest. She's a doctor of English. She is a professor. She is a wife. She's a mother. She's a shark tooth enthusiast. She has well over 25 to 30 years of experience. And she's just a wonderful, wonderful guest. She will be a wonderful wealth of knowledge here. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you.
All right. So, what I would like to talk about here is some know you for the Shark Tooth book, and some know you from different genres of your books. But if you would like to kind of take us into a few of your books that you have written and take us to some of the history of why you wrote them and what really made you want to write various books when we know you were really interested in shark teeth.
Yeah, so you all probably know me for shark tooth hunting on the Carolina coast. This came out in 2015, and it was really the result of me having a very large collection of shark teeth, but not having a good source to tell me what I had found. And as an English professor, I knew, all right, I need to do some research. I need to go find articles that may tell me how big was this shark? What species did it come from? Is it still alive? But I found that all of those sources were incredibly hard to read because they were
Wow.
written by folks like zoologists and wildlife biologists, and I didn't understand them. And so I thought it is time. It's time for a book to come out that anybody can read and understand, because this hobby of shark tooth hunting is getting so very big
It
that there
is.
needs to be a very accessible guide. Following that, I'm a Hemingway scholar. The author Ernest Hemingway is my favorite.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
I wrote a book about his exploits in Bimini, which is the westernmost Bahamian island.
Right.
And I set out in that book to prove that he did go back to the island after 1937, when most scholars said that he had not. And I was able to prove it by interviewing the last living men in the Bahamas who fished with him before he died.
Oh,
And
wow.
for a couple of them, I believe I was the last interviewer to get in before they passed away.
Wow.
And so that was really an archival and interview heavy book project. I then in 2018 published a novel. It's called In Search of Jimmy Buffett, a Key West Revival. Had absolutely no intention of writing a novel. I was in Key West, which is my favorite city in the world, and had a drink or two, and had just sort of a stroke of an idea that I needed to write a novel, and it just poured out. And so that one came out, as I said, in 2018. And then the most recent book that just came out in March, I'll show you a copy of it.
Sure.
Called Jean Lafitte Revealed: Unraveling One of America's Longest Running Mysteries.
Uh-huh.
My mother was my co-writer on this. University of Louisiana Press published it. We actually proved that the New Orleans pirate Jean Lafitte faked his death in the 1820s. I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. It's not historical fiction. We proved with documents and artifacts that he faked his death in the 1820s.
Mm-hmm.
Hid in Cuba for a little bit, but came back into the United States under a fake name, and wound up in North Carolina, and lived to be a 96-year-old man. And we even found his sword with his hand-etched signature in the Freemason Lodge he helped to found in my hometown, which is Lincolnton, North Carolina. So those are the 4 books that are published. I also have another novel that'll be coming out early next year. I was telling Charles when we were chatting beforehand that I've recently retired from the university. I taught for 20 years. And recently retired from Pfeiffer University after 14 years there, really to focus on writing, to focus on researching and speaking, but also secretly to have more time to shark tooth hunt. So I'm loving retirement.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Now, with that being said, you grew up in Lincolnton, North Carolina. Now, being somewhat or very close to the beach, unlike some of us that didn't grow up close to the beach, we had a yearly vacation, how was it finding your first shark tooth for 14 years old?
Yep, I was young. Yep, around 13, 14. And like many of you, living, close to the beach, so we could come down for weekends and things. But I maybe got, if we were lucky, 1 year, 2 weeks total, and that included, weekends that we'd come down to the beach and hunt. And my dad is really the one who got me interested in beach combing. And so I think that sort of the root of everyone's interest in shark tooth hunting is curiosity. Like that's the core of it. And I find that very few people are just sort of like one track mind people. Like they're generally curious. So if they're out there, they're finding all kinds of other things. And I brought some show and tell stuff that we can look through today. But I had that curiosity, and I think it was instilled in me from my father, who's a curious beachcomber. And so when we went to the beach, we weren't at the go-kart track or at the mall or the arcade or wherever. Like we were on the beach, sun up to sundown, and sometimes with flashlights in the night to see what we could find. And I think one of the reasons I feel such community with shark tooth hunters is that we share this common curiosity. And it's not the kind of hobby where you learn it all and you're finished, right? There's an endless amount of information to learn. And I like surrounding myself with people who have a similar interest in curiosity.
Awesome. And transitioning to this, we when we look at shark tooth hunting, as you mentioned, it's really getting this big, huge community now. People might find, as you might see on the page, rocks, shells, what might be crushed shells, what might be fragments of megs, or what might be, and going to the beach, like myself, once a year, finding them as a kid, you get intrigued.
Yep.
And for the people, I want this to be well-based. So for the people that's getting started, what is something, you mentioned beach nourishment and you mentioned dredging.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of start there. I think there's a good basis. That a lot of people get there to the beach and they get frustrated because they're not finding anything on the beach. They're not seeing any shells. They're not seeing any crushed shells. They're not seeing anything. Let's start there. How important is it with dredging and pretty much restocking the beach?
Yeah. So dredging is kind of a double-edged sword. In some areas of the East Coast, dredging has brought up wonderful things, right? I remember a time, I believe it was 20 years ago, I was in North Myrtle Beach and got to be there. Like I was the first one on the beach after they opened a section after dredging. And I have never found so many great whites in my whole life, and pieces of megs. I didn't find a whole one, but I found pieces, and it was spectacular. In other areas, dredging actually has the opposite effect. if they pull sand from an area that is not fossil rich, the dredging and the renourishment, they can pump a bunch of sand up on the beach that actually doesn't have good stuff in it. And if it was good for shark tooth hunting before, it can actually be ruined for a couple of years.
Wow.
That's what happened in Cherry Grove about 5 years ago. I still love Cherry Grove and I still shark tooth hunt there all the time, but it got a little messed up in this last big round of renourishment that they did, because it did not pull from fossil rich sand, and therefore the good hunting went away. It's slowly been coming back, but it's not like it really used to be. And so when I speak to groups and I get those inevitable questions, or even I get messages from people saying, "Hey, I want to find shark's teeth. I'm at the beach. I'm not finding anything."
Right. Right.
A lot of other people who are hunting for shark's teeth don't know that even really experienced hunters have the same experience,
Right.
but we often don't stay at the same beach. This is a little bit of a tip, right? So if I wake up really early in the morning and go to a beach and there's nothing there, I don't stay there all day and beat my head against the wall,
Right. Okay.
right?
Okay.
I get
Right.
in the
Right.
car and go somewhere different. So, for instance, my last beach trip, I had gotten word that there was some really good stuff washing out around 76th, 77th in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
And went down there, but all it takes, you're one tide away from having the good shell beds disappear.
Right.
I got down there and there wasn't much of anything. And so I hopped right in the car. I gave it 5 minutes. I could look at the beach and tell this ain't gonna be a good day. I got in the car and got up to Cherry Grove.
Mm-hmm.
Realized then this is going to be an okay day here, but it's not going to be great.
Right.
Ended up hopping back in the car and going even further north to Ocean Isle, because I suspected the shelling, as the tide got lower, I suspected the shelling would be good, and I was right. And so, if possible, don't stay in the same place where you are. Even if it's just hopping in and driving a couple of blocks away, those blocks can make a difference. So,
that's very interesting, and that's point number one, guys. So if there's
yeah,
nothing there in the area, try a different area. And you
yeah,
see the people that's like digging a hole for the same hour, and
yeah,
it's just like there's a huge beach here.
yeah.
Let's try a different spot. And moving, as you said, a couple blocks or a couple miles makes a great difference. Now, everybody is asking, even if there isn't anything on the beach, is the teeth still there?
They are. They are just not going to be as plentiful. And so you're going to have the best luck if you're in that area where there's shell hash, or what we would call around, our parts, a shell bed. You're always going to have better luck when that's there. The really experienced hunters know how to do something that I call read the beach, right? So we can look at what is washing out and know whether that's from an era or a time in history where sharks were plentiful, right? So there's a couple of signals that I attempt to look for, and that allows me to make that 5-minute assessment. Is it worth staying here today, or am I going to leave? The number one thing that I look for is clay balls. And if you've walked on the beach and have found one of these areas, you know what I'm talking about. It's that it's like mud, those balls of mud that if you step on them, it like gets completely stuck and you can't get it off.
Right.
Whenever you find those, that means that an area of a layer of the sand is washing out that has never been washed out before, and your eyeballs are the first ones that are getting to see it. So I always take, a lot of people hate those clay balls. I love them because they mean new good stuff's washing out. I also look for certain shells and other debris that tell me that this is a good area to be looking in. I did not grab one, and I should have. You guys know what Myrtle Beach turtle heads are? Those are the inside molds of ancient clams. They're usually about that big around. They're black, and they look like turtles' heads, and that's why people call them that, though that's not what they are. Whenever I see those washing out and rolling around, that tells me that a new layer is being exposed, and the chances of finding big great whites or megs are going to be much better. And so the more experience you gain, the better you will get at being able to read the beach on your own. But you have to get there quickly and make an assessment. It's important too to know your tides, and to know where the shell beds are on the particular beach that you're going to go. So this might be a little long-winded answer, but it's important. You need to understand that every beach is different. It has its own unique characteristics, right? So I like to go shelling in Southwest Florida on the west side, in the Sanibel area.
Okay.
When you're shelling there, low tide is everything, right?
Mm,
You need to be low tide, and it needs to be really clear water. So water clarity matters, and you're going to be better off if you are on one of those ultra low tides, right? So tides don't come to the same points every day. Sometimes you'll have really high tides, and sometimes you'll have really low. So understanding where you are in the tide chart is important. Even especially for beginning hunters, you need to have a physical copy of the tide chart, and keep it. I get mine every year in January at Bullinose in Cherry Grove. They do a handy little printed guide. And here lately, they've been doing posters, little cardboard posters that you can put, and they're free, that you can put on your refrigerator. So I've got one at the house here in Charlotte, and I've got one at the beach house in Calabash. And before I do anything, I consult that chart. Now, in the Myrtle Beach area, you just need to know where the shell beds are, right? So if the shell beds are on the middle part of the beach and it's high tide, you're not going to find anything. And it's best for you to the previous day scope out. All right, it's 9 o'clock here, and these shell beds are exposed and the water is rushing over it. So this is a good time. Know that tomorrow at 10 o'clock is going to be the same conditions.
wow.
So knowing when your tides are, knowing where the shell beds are. In Cherry Grove, they vary. Sometimes it's better at the higher line, and sometimes it's better in the middle line. Getting low tide finds on the Grand Strand in general, I find is very rare. I do better when those beds are exposed, and that's generally somewhere between medium and high on the beach. But understanding that is important. Also of note, you need to pay attention to your moon cycles. And I know this sounds sort of mystical, and maybe you're not going to believe me, and that's okay. I love to hunt on a full moon.
Wow.
I think it makes a difference. And I don't just think it. Back a couple of years ago, I did a 5-year study. And this was when I was able to get to the beach probably twice a month. And I documented every single shark tooth I found, both for quantity and quality and size, and the moon cycle, and found that high tide, or rather full moon hunting was vastly superior to any other time in the moon cycle. So if you can only go to the beach 1 week a year, look at the moon cycle before you book.
And for the ones that are coming in, we have here her book. Please go out and get it. Shark Tooth Hunting. It's crazy. I know I have this. You might do a better job. There you go. This crazy green screen. All right. Go out and get the book. What she just mentioned is also in the book. And you also mentioned, segueing into this, you mentioned the 7 beach zones, where to look from the water, which we've kind of covered that. And we don't want to share too much because we want you to go get the book. So we're doing a couple key points, bulletin points from them. Now, this is something new that I learned. The further north you go up to like Cherry Point, what we would call the point, Cherry Grove Point, the colors seem to get a little lighter in color. Like down by Spring May might be black compared to going up the Cherry Grove might be more cream, might be more brown, might be more sand. Is it common for, as you mentioned, is having hindsight? Is it more common for us to miss a lot of teeth depending on the area that we're hunting in?
Yes. I think it's easier to find the black ones than it is to find the lighter color ones. So for example, this is one of my favorite great whites that I found. It's just about as big as you're going to find in a great white, around the little over 2-inch range.
Right.
This is a really easy tooth to spot because of the color contrasting with other things. It's big, right? And for it contrasting with the sand and the other shells. This guy I found in Cherry Grove, Mother's Day 2 years ago. They're sort of close in size. This is
Right.
actually my favorite tooth that I've ever found. I don't know if that gives you a better
Wow.
picture of
Yeah,
it
it's
or not.
like a baby.
This is
Baby.
actually my favorite great white that I've ever found. This is
Wow.
a much harder tooth to find because and it was dried. It was not wet when I found it. This color and this light root, that's the exact color of the sand, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so when it gets like that, these teeth are a whole lot harder to see than teeth like this.
Mm.
When you get up into even up into the Ocean Isle area, when you keep going further north, you're going to
Uh-huh.
see other colors come in. There are a lot of sort of orangey brown and sometimes even reddish teeth
Wow.
that you'll see up there.
Yeah.
So the area definitely makes a difference. I've only really found, and I don't do a ton of my hunting in Myrtle Beach. I tend to stay a little bit north of that.
Mhm.
But almost everything I found there is black. And so
Wow. Wow.
I do think better colors sometimes do pop out the further north you go.
Okay. And we mentioned um now the tides is going to pretty much coincide with the times of day.
Hmm.
So we've kind of went over that. What we will do is there is some people saying hello. For the ones that's coming into the room that may not know, this we're having a shark tooth discussion. We're having a shark tooth kind of 101 class here, or like a very basics, and we're kind of getting more into a little bit nitty gritty of the shark tooth hunting. Now, a question I get a lot too to kind of switch the tone. What do you display your teeth in, or what do you like to put them in, or how can people ask? I get the question: how do we preserve our teeth, even though
Yep.
they've been here millions of years? So
My favorite way to do it, I put my really special things in a separate container, and I'll show you some of my other stuff here in a little while. But I like tackle boxes
okay,
or hardware store organizers for like nuts and bolts and nails and things.
yeah, yeah,
Because they give you those removable slats that you can make the spaces bigger or as small as you want to.
yep,
And so I buy those and stack them up on each other. And I like that it allows me to separate by species. The Dollar Tree actually has a pretty good little organizer that's maybe this big, maybe 6 inches across. I bought like 20 of those. I travel with them so that when I'm shark tooth hunting somewhere in a hotel room or at our beach place, that's my sort of travel container to be able to separate them out and get them back and forth. But I would look for those little plastic containers at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever. But if you can find them at the Dollar Tree, you can get a really great deal on the little ones. I don't do shadow boxes and such, and I don't have some kind of large display case,
mm,
but I know a lot of people will get like a curio cabinet.
right, right,
That's a nice way to display them. But I tend to keep mine stacked up like a hoarder in in
yeah,
those
right,
little organizers from the hardware store.
absolutely. Now, you've mentioned North and South Carolina being the best upon the East Coast to look for teeth. I had a question. We'll do a question here. Can you find shark's teeth at Virginia Beach or Ocean City, Maryland?
So when you get up into Virginia, absolutely there's some amazing things that come out in Virginia, especially around those cliffs. And I've never had an up in Maryland as well. When you
Okay.
get up into that sort of cliffy area, I know up in Maryland you have to have private land to be able to hunt because they have different rules.
Okay.
But absolutely, there's some beautiful teeth that come out up there. And they are more of that putty colored brown. There's some really beautiful colors that come out up there.
Okay.
Interestingly, in North Carolina, once you get up into the Outer Banks area, there are beautiful shells that wash out up there. But I've
Mhm.
only found three shark's teeth in my whole life in the Outer Banks.
Wow.
The Outer Banks are really not a good place to hunt. So there's kind of like a dead zone there in North Carolina. But to answer the viewer's question, yes, once you get up into Virginia, it's like they reappear.
Wow.
And
Okay.
there's some good hunting up there.
Okay. And I'm sure we have a lot of people watching from all over. You all can definitely let us know where you're from as well. And let us know if you have Ashley's book. I know a lot of you, if you have not heard about it, we'll show the book a couple more times here shortly. But we want to take this time to again to still and share and invite, share and invite. We still have some more time. We're going to go through some awesome stuff here. And for the shark tooth enthusiasts, you won't believe the people that we get that are at the beach right now who aren't finding teeth. So we won't go back over those questions. You all can watch it in the replay. But for the ones that I would say, Ashley's already said it, get something to put them in, but please have something to put them in. Wouldn't you say, Ashley, when you go to the beach, instead of
Yes.
just your pocket?
Yes. And so I always hunt with a fanny pack. And I have a Ziploc bag that I keep my phone and my keys in, because ask me how many times I've dropped my keys and had to go back and try to find them.
Right.
But I also use those the holder necklaces that you can get in the beach shops. I always hunt with one of those either around my neck. A couple of years ago, I found a really good one that straps around like a fanny pack. It's a waist pack.
Okay.
But absolutely have something to put them in to protect them so you don't lose them. Also, so they don't wind up in your pockets, rattling around your your laundry dryer after you've forgotten to take them out. So definitely find one of those beach shops. $5, you can usually get those necklaces that are exactly what you need.
And or they be rolling back out to the surf,
Nope.
So we do want to also say that now let me ask you this. This is a good family question. How often is your family into shark tooth hunting, or are they kind of like, eh?
Yeah, so my little boy is 10, and he has gotten very, very good at it.
All right.
And it's one of the things that I really love, because shark tooth hunting is more than just about finding teeth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about being outside. It's about breathing fresh air. It's about getting exercise. It's about learning.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being with your family. It's about really plugging in to the people you love,
Right.
and doing something where you're not distracted. You're totally focused on them and the experience.
Right.
And quite frankly, a lot of my mental health balance comes from the hours that I get by myself on the beach. And so I think there have even been some scientific studies that prove that your blood pressure goes down, your stress levels go down. And I know for a fact that walking barefooted in the sand, it grounds your body. It changes the way the water is in your body, and that's like not scientific at all. But I've heard from a lot of other people that say you need to ground your feet need to physically be on the ground, and that all of the parts of the ocean that are happening come together to do nothing but good things for your body. But I encourage anybody who, even if you think your kid's too young, get them out there, get them excited, because it's the perfect free thing to do at the beach with your families. And you won't ever regret a minute that you spent there in doing that. And you may actually find some really amazing things that they're going to spark the curiosity in your kids. And what we want are curious kids, because curious kids go on to do great things.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And we're both products of that. When you're curious, you want to learn more, and now let's talk about, you mentioned even if it's black,
Mhm.
don't just throw it back. Just don't throw it back in. Just don't overlook it. Sometimes we know it's broken teeth or it might be a fragment of a broken shell, but how important is it to keep those black fragments?
Keep it, put it in your pack, put it in your pail, whatever you've got, and take it home. Very often I have grabbed things in the dark, and I'll talk about that in a second. I've grabbed things in the dark and been like, I don't think this is something, but I'll throw it in. We'll take it home and take a look at it. And it's
Right.
turned out to be something very, very special.
Wow.
I do a lot of my hunting at night. And so before I show you those special things, let me talk to you about that. A lot of really novice hunters will get up at like 8 o'clock in the morning and be like, all right, I'm going to go hunt shark's teeth. And they get out there and they look and there's nothing there. And they, I'll see the post on Facebook. I got up at 7:45 and went out there. On the Grand Strand by 8 o'clock, you have missed the ball game.
Right. You missed it.
Like the minute the sun comes up, right? Within 30 minutes to an hour, all of the really spectacular things that the good experienced hunters can see easily, they're gone. A lot of people on vacation also don't realize that there are people like me who get up in the middle of the night and go out with headlamps, and pretty much clean the beach off before anybody else gets out there. And so,
Yeah.
if you're going to do that, a couple of things I advise you to always be safe. You want to make sure that you're hunting in an area that you feel comfortable in, right? So when it's dark and there's clouds, so you don't even have moonlight, and the waves are crashing and are loud, like you wouldn't even be able to hear somebody running up behind you. So it's very important that you are cognizant of your safety.
Right.
I like to use a headlamp, and then I have a very high light, a very high number of lumens light that I use. And whenever the tide is ideal, like I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when I'm out there. And so getting up early. Another thing to consider is that if you are hunting in an area where there are turtle habitats, you need to be aware, and this is particularly important when you get up into Ocean Isle because they have lots and lots of turtle nests. If
Wow.
it is turtle season, which is, don't quote me on this, I believe it is somewhere between like June and October. If you are in those areas, you do not need to be hunting with flashlights that are white or headlamps at all. You need to be using red lights.
Oh,
The white lights actually make it hard for the turtles to know where they are and to know where to come in. And you can actually interfere with the life cycle by using those lights.
wow.
So if you're in a turtle area at night, you're going to do some of that night hunting. Make sure that you're using a red light and not a big lamp. But a couple of examples of things that I found that I didn't think were anything, but I sure am glad I picked it up and kept it. The first one, I found this maybe 3 years ago, and I just thought it was a vertebrae, and I was like, all right, but that around the edge, that looks kind of different. I'm going to pick this up. You know, it may be
Right, right.
nothing, but it may be something special. It's a dinosaur vertebrae.
Oh my
And I had
goodness.
absolutely no idea. Of course, I had to ask some friends who were experts, and they said, "Yeah,
Right,
that's a
right.
plesiosaurus vertebrae
Wow.
that I just thought was like a piece of junk." But sure, I'm
Wow.
glad I picked it up.
Wow.
The most recent really fun find that I had, a lot of people would just think, "Oh, that's just a piece of wood. That's nothing." It's a whale rib.
Oh my
I pulled this
goodness.
up in Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago. My
Wow.
husband was like, "That's nothing. Throw that down." I'm like, "I'm keeping it. It's
It's
something." And I'm going to figure out
it's
what
a
it
piece of
is.
log, yeah.
Yeah. And so the last one is perhaps my favorite. Um, this looks like nothing to most people, right? It just looks like a cracked shell.
Yeah.
But when I got it home and looked at it, I noticed these polka dots. This is actually the cob of a Junonia shell, which is the most rare seashell in the continental United States.
Wow.
And people in southern Florida like live to hunt for them. And many people hunt 40, 50 years and never find one.
Wow.
I don't know of anybody who has found one this far north. I found it in Cherry Grove about a year
Wow.
ago. I don't know that one's ever been found this far north in the United States. At least I don't know anybody who has. And so
Wow.
this was one of those things that I picked it up and I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out. And it turned out to be a Junonia. So
Wow.
to answer your question, that was a long-winded answer.
Oh
But
no,
to
it's
answer
not
your
long-winded
original
at all.
question, yes, pick it up, take it home, and if you don't know what it is, post on a page like Myrtle Beach Shark Teeth or the North Carolina Fossil Club or any of those, sort of sites, and find an expert who can tell you what it is. And if it looks odd, keep it. You never know.
And recently I had someone ask me on the beach actually, they had threw back, they had found a tiger. You know how you have the long rectangular
Mhm.
bottom. Well, they threw it back because it looked like a shell. So
Yeah.
that's the interesting part that Ashley is saying to keep it. And even in her book, she goes through a great description. It gives you the pictures. It gives you what they look like, and it's from the sand tiger to a great white to a bull to a dusky. So it's great to learn the different species of teeth. Now, can you go into a little bit briefly the description of a tooth, what the root is, and so on? And you know better than I on that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So let me grab a few examples here. So, and I'll need this big one probably. So when you're looking at a shark tooth, when an expert refers to the enamel, right, that's the shiny part, right? That's this part down below that looks like our teeth, right? The root is this dingy part up in the top. That's the part that would be under the shark's gum if the tooth was still in its mouth. Some shark's teeth, like sand tigers, and this may not show up well, but I'll try, they have tiny little secondary teeth that come off from the sides, and those are called the cusps. And so I always love to find those that still have the cusps attached. A lot of times those are broken off. So back to Charles's point, you may find something that's broken because it might not look like anything. Sometimes the roots become completely detached from the enamel. So you may have really found a shark's tooth, you just didn't have the whole thing. Now, knowing what the enamel part is important, because that area measuring it is going to tell you how big the shark was. So the formula is, for every inch of tooth enamel, you're not measuring the root, you're just measuring the enamel. For every inch of tooth enamel, you're going to have 10 feet of shark, right? So this one, that's about an inch. This is almost 2 inches. So that would have been like a 19 or a 20-foot long great white shark. Those tend to only go up to maybe 25 feet. So this is just about as big as they come. But being able to recognize the parts of the tooth are important. And the book can go into more detail. There's some other areas of the tooth that if you want to get more technical, you can learn those names as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, now we know we can get this on Amazon, but is there a specific like site that we can get it just specifically from you, or do you have a distributor?
You can get it specifically for me. So if you get it from Amazon, it is not going to come autographed. But if you would like an autographed copy from me, you can send me an email and we can do a sale through PayPal. So my email is Lincoln, Lincoln, and then same word, Boaters, V as in Victor, Oters, Lincoln Boaters @gmail.com. If you wanted to send me an email and let me know who you want me to sign it to, like if you want me to personalize it for a Christmas gift or whatever, I'd be glad to do it. The books are $11.75, and then I would have to charge you shipping. I can get a media rate, so the sales price would be right around $15, and that would be delivered with an autograph or an inscription if you like.
And that's amazing, because I'm jealous because I have the book with no autograph. But nevertheless,
I am also going to be making an appearance for people who'd like to meet me in person. I am going to be at the Ocean Isle Oyster Festival, which is coming up. Let me remind myself of the date. October 16 to 17. I'm going to have a shark tooth hunting booth there. And I'll be signing books all weekend. So if you're local and want to come to the festival, I'll be glad to meet you, answer questions, and sign a book for you there.
Awesome. Now, is there specific times, or is it just literally all day?
Literally all day Saturday and all day Sunday. I will be there.
Awesome. So if you are close to there, please get there. Please go to the email below, and please get your signature copy. It's well worth it. And we want to take a second again to everyone that's new, share and invite. Let me see if we have any more questions here. We will take, if you all have a couple good questions that she has not answered, we will do a couple and we will answer those here momentarily. So what, out of all the teeth that you have, what is your favorite tooth or species of tooth?
I am, and I don't have it with me. My son found his first great white. And while it's not the biggest and it's not the best, that one has a real special place in my heart because he was so excited. I love to find cow shark teeth, but I've only found a handful. I think I'm up to 5 now. They are exceedingly rare on the Grand Strand. And so I do love finding those. There's nothing like finding a Meg. And so the ones that you're going to find in the North Myrtle Beach area, or in the Myrtle Beach area, they are almost always beaten up, right?
Right.
Almost always going to be beaten up. And so when I see these posts, and we all see the posts where someone says, I found a mag on the beach, and I'm like, all right, that tooth's been lacquered and repaired.
Okay, now
You did not find that on the beach.
can we pause there?
Yes.
I have, I'm sure you've seen it. We've had quite the few the last couple weeks.
Hmm.
Now, I've heard a couple conspiracies that hotels were planning for the kids or people were planning for the kids. How, that was going to be another question I had, but we can go over it now.
Yeah.
How likely is it to find a 4, 5, 6 inch Meg on the Grand Strand, all in perfect condition? How realistic is that?
It is very unrealistic. It is very uncommon. It happens. It happens. But the folks who, and I deal in megs, right? So we have these shark tooth booths. At any given time, I'll have, 400 megs in my possession, right? I
Uh,
see a lot of teeth. We can spot, experts and dealers can spot the ones that have been repaired, the ones that have been lacquered. And we recognize that some colors of teeth tend to be found in certain areas, right? And so you'll see somebody pull up one of these megs that like that's not the right color, and it's
right.
very unlikely that it would have been found in that condition. And I can see where the lacquer is.
Yeah, right.
But that's not to
Right.
say it doesn't happen. And as a good example, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, I was walking very close to the Cherry Grove Pier, which is known as a hotspot for finding Megs. And there was a man, and it was very early in the morning. It was, 6:30 in the morning. A man walking 5 or 6 steps ahead of me just like hollered really loudly. And I thought, oh, I thought he was having a medical emergency or something.
Right, right.
And I saw him actually pull it out. It was about a 4 incher. It
Wow.
wasn't perfect, but it was as close to perfect as I've seen
Wow.
in person pulled up on the Grand Strand. And I know for a fact he didn't plant. There was
Right,
nobody there. Like
right,
he
right.
really found the tooth.
Wow.
And so it does happen. I do not think that hotels plant them because these things are expensive.
Right.
The ones that are we're talking about like a 4 inch tooth that's in perfect shape. It's gonna be a couple of $100.
Right, right.
Hotels are not going to be slinging those out on the beach for kids
Right,
to find.
right.
So I don't think they're planted, but I do believe a lot of people buy them in the gift shops and then say they found them on the beach. I never comment when I see it.
Right,
However,
right.
I just leave it alone.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
if people want the attention, let them have the attention. But it's exceedingly rare to find them in really good condition, and a lot of people are fibbing when they say they found them.
They found them, right? Well, they probably did on the website,
Yeah.
but nevertheless, so we've talked about quite a bit here. So for a lot of questions too that I get is the people that want to give up when they are when they haven't found anything. Let's say they go to a beach for a week and
Mhm.
they really don't want to go to a different area. They really don't want to dig. They don't want to dive. I know you're not really into diving, and again, I like this book because it's very easy to read. Number one, number two, from the beginner, and she wrote this book to be able to for the beginners, for the novice. So for the people that aren't finding anything, and let's say they're not having any luck on shark teeth. What is something else that's really cool shell wise or fragment wise or crustacean wise? Or what's something else that they can really do when they're not having any luck with teeth, whether it's shells or.
So some days are really crappy. You're not going to find shark's teeth, and that just it is what it is. And when I'm having days like that and I'm disappointed by it, I generally have a talk with Mother Nature about it. And one of the things that I'll do to kind of try to refocus my energy is I'll focus on picking up trash, right? Be like, all right, I'm not even looking for teeth anymore. I'm going to start picking up other people's garbage and clean this beach off.
I like
And maybe I'll get back in Mother Nature's good graces.
that.
I think it's important to, if you see an animal in distress in any way, that you are the one to take charge and help or call for help. I truly believe that being a good steward of the beach and taking care of its creatures prompts good teeth and good shells to come your way. So I
Right,
think
right,
keeping it real with Mother Nature is important. But if it really isn't happening, some interesting things that you can find. Um, let me grab a few here. I've got more than I thought here. So you can often find crab shells, which are very delicate. So you need to put them somewhere safe to be able to get them home because they will crumble like a potato chip.
Awesome.
I also like to look for sea glass, which you will sometimes find. I love the light blue, the aqua colored sea glass. So you can turn your attention to looking for that.
Now,
Um,
exactly, someone might ask, what is sea glass? Can you explain it?
I can. So sea glass is broken bits of bottles that get rolled around for a long, long time in the surf, and they get their rough edges smoothed off. And a lot of people find these little bits and fragments to make jewelry or do other kinds of artwork. I just keep it and put it in a bowl because I think it's so pretty.
Yeah.
I make specific trips to Florida and sometimes even the Bahamas just to look for sea glass because I think it's so pretty. Those are the best places I've ever found to find it. So
Wow.
Myrtle Beach sea glass is a lot of it's brown and it's beer bottles, but every now and then you'll find the pretty blue or the clear or the aqua. You can find sea urchins that don't have the creature in them. Don't ever take anything with the creature. Most important thing I'm going to say today, if
Save
it's
them.
alive, leave it there. Because if you take it intentionally and you know it's alive, Mother Nature will not allow you to find other good things. So if it's alive, it's got to stay. Always check. You can sometimes find sea biscuits, which is kind of like a fat sand dollar. Those will occasionally wash up. I love moon snails, and this is a great big one. Sometimes these are called shark's eyes, but I always look for those. Isn't that pretty?
Awesome. Yeah, very pretty.
Um, you can also find other kinds of fossils. This is a sea robin skull. And most people would look at that and think that is just garbage, but no, and a sea robin is not a bird, it's a fish.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can find skulls of things. Also fun to find whelks, and pretty common are the olive shells.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
That's a big, pretty one. But on the rare end, this is where it gets exciting. You can find occasionally things like tulip shells. These are plentiful in Florida, but you don't find a lot of them on the Grand Strand. I find maybe one or two a year on the Grand Strand. You can also find little nutmeg shells on the Grand Strand. I'll find one or two a year.
Wow.
And perhaps the most coveted in North Carolina and South Carolina is the Scotch bonnet. And you can find those very occasionally. I've never found a whole one in the Carolinas, but I found pieces, so they are there. I found this one in Florida a couple of months ago. So if you're having a bad day with shark's teeth, and there are bad days, you can't let yourself get discouraged by that. Even really experienced hunters, I had a day, it was about 2 weeks ago, it was over Labor Day weekend. I walked out for 3 hours, didn't find a thing. I mean, just nothing. And I'm a really good shark tooth hunter. So don't get your feelings hurt, and turn your attention to other things.
Exactly. And you all that are asking questions, we plan on bringing more people, but we want to start here because I was greatly influenced. I got the book. Matter of fact, Tom Pierce at the Gay Dolphin
Mm-hmm.
turned me on to it years ago, right? And he signed the book and stuff. He's like, actually, he said, he has his place in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And for you all that don't know, is Gay Dolphin a great place to go to if they're in the Grand Strand?
It is. The Gay Dolphin is one of the most interesting places in the Grand Strand. It's a great big tacky gift shop, and I say that lovingly. It's the kind of thing that you just want to go and see for yourself. But Trader Bill's in the Gay Dolphin is a wonderful shark tooth shop. And the man who runs the place, he knows everything there is to know about everything. He has cases and cases full of really wonderful teeth. If you don't know what you found, he can help you identify. I think he does also sell my book there.
Yes, he does.
But he is also, I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe he will do wiring to help set any really pretty teeth you find. If you want to make jewelry out of it, he can set you up there. So Yes, go to the gay dolphin. I haven't been in a little while, but I need to pop in.
And,
It's super cool.
and I love the huge great white display that sits over the
Yeah.
front. It's like real to size. So, but
Yeah.
yes, he's wrapped several of mine for me over the years. He is a great wealth of knowledge, down to earth. I heard when he's in there now, so maybe he's more on the beach now.
Uh,
But are there any more places that, let's say people don't go to Myrtle Beach?
yeah.
Are there any more museums? Are there any more historic fossil places that people that are into fossils, where are some places that they can check out that you have been?
Yes. So if you're in the Carolinas, you have to see Aurora at least one time. It would be great if you could join a Facebook group that's devoted to Aurora, because they're going to tell you when they've added new material to the fossil piles there. And so outside of the museum in the parking lot, they bring big dump trucks full of material from the mines, and that's where the
Wow.
great big beautiful shark's teeth are found, in that area. And you
Wow.
can just park it the whole day and dig through the pile. So you want to coordinate, if you are going to make a special trip, coordinate your trip so that it coincides with when they've just put a new load out. But the museum up there has the most incredible shark's teeth I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It's, I think, probably one of the best collections in America. And you will learn so much. They also have a fossil festival that happens in May, usually on Memorial Day weekend. And they always do a new dump of material in the parking lot for that event. So if you can get up there for the fossil festival, it's really, and I've done the festival a couple of times, it's a lot of fun. Another place to sort of put on your radar is going to be Venice, Florida, right? So the Myrtle Beach area kind of likes to market itself as, the place on the
Right.
East Coast to find shark's teeth. And it is, it's a great place. But the western coast of Florida, sort of, it's south of Tampa, but before you get down to Naples, it's sort of on that western side. The Venice Casperson area is a really great place to go. Now, it's different hunting there. So if you're going to go, know what the expectations are. You don't walk on the beach there and find very many shark's teeth. You actually have to get in the water. And people there make these homemade sifters. So you've got to go out to sort of waist deep water, scoop the material up off of the seabed, and then you dump it in sort of a floating sifter that they create these things. And you stand there and shake the sand and the other shells through and look for shark's teeth. So
Wow.
it's different. You have to be in, like, really in the water to do it. But it's a great place to go and hunt. They also have a festival, which I've not attended. However, I've been in some of the gift shops on the main street. They call themselves the shark tooth capital of the world.
Right. Right.
But it's a fun place if you really love shark's teeth, or especially if you have kids. It's a fun place to go and visit.
And I believe they do have Shark Teeth Week every week, I believe, don't they
Yeah,
still? I don't know with the pandemic now, but I'm sure they used
yeah,
to. So
yeah. Once a
that's
year they do a big festival.
awesome. And you had mentioned earlier some of the spots they're not as common, like Panama City, the whole Gulf. When we would, shark, that's not really predominant. I just don't know if it's due to the just the area, or just we know sharks was everywhere, but like you said, we do have these areas that are dead. But I do remember my wife is not really a big shark tooth hunter, so when she found her first, she was like, "Oh my goodness, a little baby." Might have been a sand tiger or something, but and this is how we are. People find the first, they get hooked, and the reason why we're doing this is because we all had to start. We all had to learn, and you know we believe in building, like on the Myrtle Beach Shark Teeth page. I'm sure you see the comments, what's real, what's not real,
Mhm.
and this and that. But we're here to uplift, to be positive.
Yep.
As we've discussed, if you can't find teeth, let's pick up some trash.
Yep.
Let's look for shells. Keep the things that you see. Get the book. It describes what it is. It's a great starting point for people that's coming in.
Yep.
We're doing this interview here. Now, I want to pause here.
Yep.
If you're looking for teeth, we have kind of like a twofold question here. If you're on the beach and people see what you're doing, the first it gets nerve wracking. What you're looking for? Hey, what you're looking for? Hey, what you're looking for? But we all had to learn. So I think the first part of this is, if you're looking for teeth, do you believe in giving another shark tooth hunter that you know they're looking for teeth, do you believe in giving them a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of a space, a little bit of not the kind of shark the area that you know they're looking in?
Yes, I believe that when we are sort of stepping back to what we were talking about previously, when we are in these environments like on your page, where new inexperienced shark tooth hunters are asking questions that a lot of people would say, "Oh, that's a dumb question," right?
Right.
Keep your mouth shut. There are no dumb questions. And I get really, really upset with people who bully other people for asking what to them is a legitimate question. And yes, they probably could have gone online and found the answer in 30 seconds if they had done a search, but they didn't. They came to people that they thought were experienced. And so it's up to us to give them the answer to that question, and to do so in a kind way. Whenever I'm on the beach as well, and people ask me, "What are you doing?" I always give them the honest answer, right? Sometimes I really want to say I'm hunting for pirate gold, leave me
Right.
alone, but I don't.
Right.
Be nice to people and just say, "Hey, I'm hunting for shark's teeth. This is a good area for it.
Right.
Look for things that are black and shiny. And if I've got some in my pocket, I'll hand them one and say, this is what they look like. You take that one, compare it to what you're looking at on the ground, and I hope you find more, on your own."
Right.
So no, we need to pass that kindness on to other people,
Right.
especially children. And if they want to follow along and watch what you're doing, narrate a little bit, say, "All
Absolutely.
right, this looks like something. Oops, I just picked it up. No, that's not it. You see how this is an oyster shell? That looks different from what this is."
Right.
Offer some guidance, offer some education. But don't ever berate somebody for asking a question.
Right.
They're a curious person.
Right.
That should be applauded, not bullied.
Right. Right. And I think the part B of that is when you have your no longer novice, you're more advanced hunters that are now competing because you see it people competing on the beach, or
Yep.
here comes the person that has been, has dug their hole. That's now, what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we believe in giving space. We believe in kind of, so could you elaborate on how important it is to, not that we own the beach, we don't, but you want to give that respect factor too of
Yeah.
allowing the person to look.
So no, we do not own the beach, and just because you dig a hole there doesn't mean it's yours.
Right.
I know I see on a lot of the pages on Facebook, really experienced hunters, particularly in areas where, I'm thinking about the GMR area, in the upper part of the state where people go inland to hunt in creeks and rivers. There are a lot of people that feel very territorial about their space. Like, if I've dug that hole, don't you touch my hole. This is
Right.
on public land. It's not your hole. But if somebody on the beach has gone to the trouble to sit there for 3 hours and dig a good hole that's now washing out, it's good to give people space. I do get a little annoyed, especially in COVID times, when people get too close to me. But you can usually fix it by walking fast and just moving to a different area, and most of the time people will leave you alone. But I like to, especially when I'm just in a mood and want to be by myself, I'll position myself on the beach where there aren't a lot of other people. But if it's Memorial Day weekend and you're on Myrtle Beach, you're not going to have personal space, so you just sort of get used to it.
Right now, we have a couple more questions. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you all missed. How can you tell if the shells are the things found on fossils or not? We've kind of went over that. Sorry, I'm catching up. This about 10 minutes ago. People asked, "Is Aurora in North Carolina, correct?"
It is
Okay.
upper part
Uh,
of the state. It's coastal, but it's north.
okay. Okay. Uh, if y'all have any more questions, you may do that now. Thank you. Somebody has added a link to the museum.
Yeah.
Um, Yes, her book is available on Amazon, or as she's mentioned before, her email,
LincolnVoters@gmail.com. You can message me.
and she will do a signature or however you would like it. Um, a lot of people say they want the book. They want let's purchase it here. Um, Making sure I haven't missed any questions. Okay, so I'll ask a couple more questions here, and we're very grateful for her time. She's a very busy. Now, you mentioned to me earlier before we came on, how many events are you doing again each month?
A lot, and they're not all related to shark tooth hunting. I probably do somewhere between, on an average month, 10 to 12 events a month. A lot of my travel, particularly over the summer, was to other states for the Lafitte book. So we were traveling to Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, kind of all over for that. And the demand for those events, sort of it continues. But I travel a little bit of everywhere to speak about either Hemingway or sharks or Lafitte, or to talk about my novel. So I'm a little bit of everywhere.
If somebody wants to book you for one
Yes.
of the 3 or 4 events, how would they do that?
Yes, so I can be booked through my email address, which again is Lincoln, Lincoln, and then voters, Voters, Lincoln Voters at gmail.com. They can reach out to me there, or through Facebook Messenger. If you wanted to like me, I will, I do sort of screen because a lot of what's on my personal Facebook page has to do with my family, but you can, tag me in a Facebook Messenger post if you're interested. I do book clubs, Rotary events, DAR events. I go into the public schools to talk about sharks. If you have any sort of group that you're a part of and you'd be interested in booking, please let me know through one of those avenues.
And if you all have enjoyed this thus far, we'll give her a few more minutes here. I know she's a very busy lady and we're appreciative of her time. If y'all have a couple more questions here, hopefully we can do this again. It's hard to fit everything in
Yeah.
on one interview here, but um, you mentioned another book. What would be next? Would you ever do? Oh, let me go here. I forgot this. Um, when you originally wrote the book, I believe it was 80 pages. Is that correct?
It's a short little book.
How did it now here? Would you ever do a revised or like an expanded
Yeah,
version?
and I think it's maybe time to do that. This book has gained, which is kind of odd, it has gained in popularity every year that it's been out.
Wow.
So I'm selling more copies per year now than I was when the book first came out.
Wow.
What that tells me is that the community of shark tooth hunters is growing. And what's fascinating, I'm able to see the analytics of my sales, at least through Amazon, through their Amazon Author Central portal. It'll show me what region of the United States people are buying the book from.
Wow.
They are from everywhere, right?
Wow.
So I was expecting to see concentrations in coastal areas,
Hmm.
but when you think about it, almost everybody goes to the beach at some point in the year.
Yeah.
And so they're coming from all over the place and descending upon the coastlines. And so this is not a hobby that's going away. If anything, it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
And I think that my book sales, are sort of indicative of that. But yes, I think there is a need for a revised edition, maybe one that's a bit longer. And I'm writing another book about a topic that I can't discuss because it's top secret. But I'm also considering a book about seashell hunting, because there, I think, is a gap. There's a lot about Florida, but there's not a lot about the Carolinas. So I'm interested in
Wow.
doing that as well.
Wow. And that's very interesting. So you all can Google her, you all can Facebook her. And something about social media is you go back 20, 25, 30 years ago, we didn't have any of this,
Yeah.
so a lot of stuff we threw back, a lot of stuff we didn't know what it
Yeah.
was, we didn't have all the resources, or it was a hush hush. I remember being a child and asking, hey, what you looking for? All the shells.
Yeah.
You pull up something and you put in your pocket. I'm like, well, it's more than shells because you're not gonna put a shell in your pocket. So this community, like this page here, is growing by almost 800 members a week. And
Hmm.
it's really, and like you said, a lot of people's moving to the coast. They're moving from different states, different parts of the world. They come to the Carolinas. They come to a beach zone. And but we do want to enjoy the beach while we are there. You all that go, shark teeth is not running out anywhere. There's
Hmm.
thousands of teeth that fell out millions of years ago. They're plenteous. I've seen people literally fight over them. People literally, it's mine. And let's
Nope.
again, let's kind of rehash a little. Let's be friendly on the beach. Let's be friendly on the page. And please, if you message Ashley, let's be considerate. She's a very busy lady. She will get back with you accordingly. The same here on the page. We want to share positive. We want to be loving, especially in this day and time.
Yep.
So, Ashley, what is something? I think my last question here would be, what is something you would say to the person that's never found a tooth? They're looking on here today. Where would you, what area, let's say they're going to the Carolinas, they've never been to a beach before, they want to find a tooth because they joined the page. What is something that you tell them to look for besides being black, obviously, because we hear that, but what is something that, besides keeping them, what is something that really sticks out? And I think I'm not looking so much for the knowing what a shark tooth is, but the determination, I
Yep.
guess.
My advice for new hunters is always educate yourself before you go. Either do it on a page like this, buy my book, do some reading, look at some pictures so that before you even step out onto the beach, you kind of know what you're looking for. Then you want to make sure that you're hunting in an area where there actually are teeth. So sometimes I'll get messages from folks that are like, we spent 2 weeks at the Outer Banks and we didn't find a single shark's tooth. And I hate to have to message them back to say you were looking in an area where there aren't a lot of shark's teeth. So it's not that you're not skilled or not good at this. You set yourself up for not finding them because of the place that you were in. So I would suggest learning, educating yourself about the best places to look. In general, I always hear good things about the sky wheel area in Myrtle Beach. And so people say if you can see the sky wheel, you're going to see shark's teeth on the beach. And so I would say put yourself somewhere like that. If you can go with someone who is patient and experienced, watch them, watch the areas that they're looking in, watch them pick things up and have them talk you through what it is that they found. It is also not a bad idea if you don't have that access to someone, buy some shark's teeth in one of the shops, some little cheap ones, spread them out on the beach and mix them in with the shells, because what you really want to do is attune your eyes. The great shark tooth hunters are the ones whose eyes have become trained, right? I can see a tiny little tip of enamel sticking out. I can see just the side little bit of a root, and I know to dig that thing out because I know what it is because I've had the number of reps, right? So this
Right,
just, it
right,
requires practice over and over and over and over. It's no different than training for basketball, right? You got to shoot 25,000 free throws to get
that's right.
yourself proficient. The same is true for shark tooth hunting. And so get out there, look at these teeth. I also advise you to use the water to your advantage. My preference is always to be about ankle deep in the water and to be sort of looking back on the beach where the waves hopefully are gently rolling
Right.
over the shell bed. So those shark's teeth are going to be more black than oyster shells. They are going to be more shiny, and they are going to roll and move differently in the water than seashells do. And so I always advise people to take that advice and to look for them in that way. But if you can be with somebody, even if you can just see somebody on the beach who looks like they know what they're doing, just say, hey, would you mind if I followed you for 5 minutes and just kind of watched and you told me what you're doing so that I
Right.
can learn how to do this? I hope as experienced hunters, we will always be willing to do that for someone.
Right.
And if you find something on the beach and you're not sure whether it's a tooth or not, post it on a page like this. And hopefully people will be kind and say, yes, it is, or no, it's not. It's an oyster shell, but good try.
Right.
um,
Right. Absolutely.
but use the pages to your advantage, right? So I had no idea this was a dinosaur vertebrae. I'm a pretty experienced beach hunter. It took me being on another Facebook page, and within 30 seconds of posting, somebody came back with an answer. That's what that is. So learn from other people and use the social media, which again, what you said is a recent invention. We didn't always have this, and in a lot of ways, there has been sort of an establishment in the fossil community that's a little bit grumpy and sort of guarded of what they know. That's changing, thankfully. In doing my research for this book, I had a couple of male fossil experts get a little snooty with me when I asked them questions that they thought were stupid. And so that sort of people who know me know that that kind of stuff drives me even harder. So I'm like, I'm not just going to write a shark book now. I'm going to write the best shark book. I'm going to sell 10,000 copies just to get under your skin.
That's right.
And I did. So be nice to each other and let's help each other find teeth.
That's amazing, and I never will forget meeting. His name was Raymond, and he said, "Young man, what are you doing?" And I saw him every year. The same year we would go to the beach. He had an orange shovel.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Here, what are you looking for? Looking for teeth?" He was up north, so he had that very aggressive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for teeth." And even though I kind of was good at what I did, I'm always for learning.
Yep.
And so he says, "Well, here, walk with me." He said, "The first thing you need to do," and he always carried like a shovel. It was almost like a kid's shovel, but it didn't have a handle. He said, "Go down to such and such store and purchase this type because you want to be able to see what you're looking for." Right. So I said, "Okay." So every year, he never remembered my name, but I remembered his. And so it was a lasting impression, like, man. And to fast forward, speaking of big teeth, there's a guy named Sharktooth Dave
Mm-hmm.
that used to live a block back from the beach. Long story short, like a hippie, just long hair. I'm like, okay. He says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Looking for teeth." Really, just really different. He said, "Come here, walk with me." And I'm like, I don't even know this gentleman. And so he says, "Walk with me." And I won't say the area on the beach because people will go do it, but he told me a specific area on the beach that was nowhere near the waves, near the surf. He says, "Dig." And okay, so I'm digging, but he has the shovel. He's like, "Dig." So he says, "You're going to see orange rock, right? When you see orange rock, you're going to see this layer, and then you're going to get to the good stuff." I'm like, considering the area you probably know I'm talking about, I'm like, that's okay. You know what I mean? But what I learned from him was invaluable that whole week. So he takes me across the street to his house. I'm like, he said, "Here, go to my house with me." I'm like, I don't have my cell phone. My family, my wife is on the beach. My family's up in the room. So I'm like, all right. Back that time I was a lot heavier into the weight and stuff. So I can handle myself.
This
So
is either going to be great or I'm going to get robbed.
exactly. Ashley, when I tell you, he takes me to his house. He says, "I had a museum worth of teeth," because he lived a block back from the beach.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Oh, cool, whatever." I mean, I got a pretty impressive collection myself, but all right, let's see what you got. I kid you not, he has a horseshoe crab the size of this screen,
Wow.
like literally. And I'm like, "You got that on the beach?" He's like, "Yeah, washed up during one of the hurricanes."
Yeah.
So he opens up an Altoids can, and out comes a Meg. Pristine, perfect. I'm like, "You got that from there?" Well, he said it was rolling on the beach, like during wintertime. To complete the story, he says there was a gentleman that was laying on the beach in a beach chair that just sunbathing. So he says, "Excuse me, sir, do you know what this is?" Well, let's say his tooth was this size, right? I mean, it was really impressive. He said the tooth that he saw was twice that size.
Wow.
The gentleman was just laying there. The guy didn't even know what it was. He said he wasn't going to say that. He was going to reach down and pick it up. He said, "But hey, sir, do you know what this is?" And he said he always regretted not picking it up, because he was too honest. But he was talking about how the winter time is different to summer. And maybe if we have an interview again, we can get into different times and seasons and how to look. And again, we only fit so much here in about an hour. But let me check one more time for the last questions before we go. Someone says, if you go to the sea captain's house at 30th Avenue North, there's framed shark's teeth pictures on the walls. Someone created the words "the sea captain's house made of shark's teeth." Someone asked, this will be the last question, is Holden Beach a good location to hunt?
It's not my favorite. I fished out a little bit north of there. I have fished out a couple of megs, small, within the last couple of years. And that's been predominantly at low tide. And I actually sort of found them accidentally because I was really shelling. A lot of sea biscuits and whelks wash out up there. And so those were found sort of, unexpectedly. There are people I see on the boards that do find it hold them, but it is not one of my favorite places to look.
Wow. Okay. Well, that will complete all of our questions. We hope you all have enjoyed opening interview here. That maybe sometime in your future, if she wants to and has the schedule to do it in the future, we will get into a more in depth. We just wanted to kind of break the ice. She's an author. She's a mother. She's a wonderful book of this guy here, the shark tooth hunting of the Carolina coast. Please go back and watch the replay. Still share this with everybody. We want our book sales to go through the roof. This is not the shark tooth. Do your research. Google her name. Trust me, you will find some interesting books that's coming out. Hopefully, we'll get a revised visit on this new book here, a new revision. So you all, please tell Ashley thank you. Please send her a message. Tell her you've enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this. The pleasure truly is ours. I hope you have enjoyed it. And probably we will have one sometime soon if she would like to. So nevertheless, Ashley, any last words or anything you'd like to say?
I will come back anytime that you'd like me to come back. I'll just close by saying something I already reiterated. Take care of the beach. Do not take live creatures. Clean up trash, not only yours but other people's, and Mother Nature will reward you for taking care of the wonderful resource that we have in the ocean.
Well, here it is, you all. We thank you all so much for joining us this evening. If you all missed anything, go back and watch it. We'll keep it up. It will also be on the Myrtle Beach Shark Teeth YouTube page. We'll be uploading it soon. So see you all soon. Happy hunting, and you all have a blessed evening.
Thank you.